Hey everyone, ready to dive into a story that sounds like it's straight out of a movie, except it's real history. We're talking Mansa Musa, the 14th century ruler of the Mali Empire, who some even call, get this, the richest man who ever lived.
Now that's a story and a half. And a lot of what we know about Mansa Musa, funny thing is, it comes from outside Mali itself.
Truly.
Yeah, imagine trying to figure out, say, a big-time celebrity, but only from what their fans are saying. You'd be missing some pieces, right?
Sure. You'd only get one side of the story.
Exactly. It's the same with Musa. We've got these wild tales of his wealth, but they're mostly from Arab scholars who met him after his famous trip to Mecca.
So how do we sort the real deal from the hype? Who was Mansa Musa beyond just the bling-bling?
Well, he was a super devout Muslim, a scholar himself, and the ruler who made the Mali Empire huge, its biggest ever. But this power wasn't just handed to him. His rise to the top, it marks a turning point for Mali's entire history.
Okay, now you've got me hooked. Let's break that down. First off, those titles Mansa and Musa, those aren't just random, right?
You're spot on. Mansa, that means ruler or king in the language of the Mandinka people, the ones who built the Mali Empire. It's a title with some serious weight behind it, shows his authority within their society. And then Musa, that's the Arabic form of the name Moses. So right there, you see this blend of Islamic and local influences shaping his reign.
Like he's bridging two worlds. And becoming Mansa, that wasn't just him being next in line for the throne either, right?
Not at all. He wasn't a direct descendant of Sunjata.
Sinjad.
Yeah, the legendary warrior king, the OG founder of Mali. Musa's lineage actually traces back to Sunjata's brother, a guy named Abu Bakr.
Okay, so hold up. How does someone who's not directly in line for the throne end up ruling the place? Did he fight his way to the top?
All right, so this is where it gets seriously interesting. There's this story told by Musa himself about the Mansa who came before him. This Mansa, some say his name was Muhammad ibn Qua, was one ambitious dude. We're talking he launched not one, but TWO expeditions to go explore. Are you ready for this? The Atlantic Ocean.
Wait, Atlantic expeditions? Like in the 1300s, that's over 100 years before Columbus even set sail.
I know, right? We're talking hundreds of ships, thousands of people. According to Musa, this Mansa, he never came back from that second trip across the Atlantic. Musa being the deputy at the time, he steps up and takes over.
Wow, that's incredible. If it's true, that is. Imagine Malians sailing to the Americas way before Columbus. That changes everything.
Right, it's a huge deal. But of course, there's always a but.
I was about to say, there's got to be a catch.
There is. Historians, they're kind of split on these expeditions. Some think Musa might have used this whole story as a way to, secure his own position. It neatly shifted power from Sunjata's direct descendants over to Abu Bakr's line, which is Musa's family.
So it's like, whether it's totally true or not, the story works in Musa's favor.
100%. It really makes you think history is often the version told by the winners,
Yeah.
We gotta ask ourselves, who benefits from a particular story?
You've got a point there. And it shows how easy it is for history to be, kind of molded to fit someone's goals. But even if we're not sure about the Atlantic trips, one thing's for certain. Musa, he wanted to be a great ruler. He had big plans for Mali.
Absolutely. And what says I'm a major player more than, say, a legendary pilgrimage to Mecca? And this wasn't just a quick trip. This was a whole statement.
Oh yeah, this wasn't just pack your bags, we're going on vacation. This was strategic.
Think years of prep. Musa wasn't just gathering up riches. He was out there expanding his territory through some very smart, very calculated campaigns. And gotta be real, that involved enslaving people, a dark side that's often forgotten. The lavish displays, the gold, it wasn't just for looks. It was a way to flex Mali's power on the world stage.
It's like he's saying, yo world, Mali's here, get used to it.
Exactly. Some accounts even say he had a crew of 60,000 men decked out in silks and gold. Camels loaded up with so much gold, he supposedly built a mosque every single Friday on the way there.
Okay, now that's what I call a travel budget. Yeah. Can you even imagine the logistics of hauling around that much gold?
It's mind-blowing. Hundreds of camels, each one carrying hundreds of pounds of gold dust. Musa was known for being super generous, trading gold for souvenirs, building mosques all along the way.
So this pilgrimage wasn't just about, the destination. It was about the impact he made everywhere he went, especially when he rolled into Cairo, the big-time center of the Islamic world back then.
Oh, his time in Cairo, now that was eventful. Picture this. Mansa Musa, this king from what was basically considered the edge of the known world at the time, walks into Cairo with a crew probably bigger than the Sultan's own court.
I bet that ruffled some feathers.
You know it. It practically caused a diplomatic incident.
What happened?
Musa initially refused to bow down before the Sultan.
Whoa, bold move.
Right. It was the custom, but Musa, he's like, nope. He eventually did bow, but made it clear he only bows to God, not any earthly ruler.
That's a power move.
Totally.
Hey, Dan.
And the wild thing is, after that rocky start, Musa and the Sultan, they hit it off, exchanged gifts, and Musa's generosity, especially that gold, had a massive effect on the city's economy.
Which, speaking of, brings up a question I've always had.
Yeah.
Is it true that Mansa Musa's gold actually, crashed the Egyptian economy?
It's a classic story, right? But like most good stories, there's more to it. An Arab scholar who visited Cairo right after Musa was there, he wrote that all that gold did cause its value to drop.
So there was a Musa effect.
There was, but when modern-day historians look at the bigger economic picture of the time, they say this was all within the normal ups and downs of Mamluk Egypt's economy.
So not quite a crash then.
Not a total meltdown. Musa shook things up for sure, but the Egyptian economy back then, they were used to gold.
It's amazing how history can be so much more, complicated than we think. We hear about Musa crashing an economy, but reality is rarely that simple, is it?
Nope, not at all.
But let's talk about Musa's journey back to Mali, because, even with all that wealth, I can't imagine it was a walk in the park.
You're right. The return trip really shows that even with all the riches and power in the world, Musa wasn't immune to tough times. Remember how his wealth kind of smoothed the way on the journey to Mecca? Well, this time not so much.
Oh, what happened? Did they run into trouble?
You bet. Illness swept through the entourage, bandits, terrible weather. They even faced starvation. Can you believe that? Having mountains of gold, but struggling to find food.
Wow, that really puts things into perspective. Even the richest man facing real human problems.
And here's another thing. Remember all that gold? He actually went into debt.
Wait, what? The richest man in debt? How's that even possible?
To cover expenses, Musa had to borrow, get this, from those Egyptian merchants. He even ended up selling off some of the stuff he'd bought earlier.
Wow, I never knew that part of the story. It makes you think twice about how we even define wealth, especially across different times and cultures, right? Is it about how much gold you have at one moment, or is it something more? It makes you think about Musa's legacy, what he's remembered for. And it's not just the gold, it's what he did with it.
Exactly. Musa's reign wasn't all about extravagance, This was a man who supported the arts and sciences. And you really see that in the incredible construction projects he undertook, especially in Timbuktu and Gao.
Timbuktu. Now, that's a name that's practically legendary, synonymous with scholarship, learning.
And Musa played a huge role in making it that way. He brought in the best architects, people from as far as Andalusia, to build mosques, madrasas. Think universities, centers specifically for Islamic learning.
Ah, okay. So the famous Jingariber Mosque with that incredible earthen architecture.
That's the one. Still standing today. A testament to Musa's vision. And then there's the Sankor Madrasa, considered one of the oldest universities in the world. These weren't just buildings, they were vibrant hubs of knowledge. Scholars came from all over to study there.
It's amazing to picture that. A center of learning, bustling with activity, all because Mansa Musa made it possible. Talk about leaving a mark. But earlier you mentioned that Musa's legacy has these different layers to it. What did you mean by that?
Well, he's definitely celebrated in the broader Islamic world, thanks in part to those Arab scholars we talked about earlier. But the view from within Mali, the stories passed down through generations, it's a little more complicated.
You mean the oral histories of the Mandinka people themselves?
Exactly. While Musa is a big figure in their narratives, he's not always seen through rose-colored glasses.
So not everyone was singing his praises,
Yeah.
even in his own kingdom.
Some of those oral traditions are surprisingly critical, actually. They suggest he might have strayed too far from their traditional beliefs, maybe he got a little too caught up in those foreign ideas he encountered.
It's a good reminder that with any powerful leader, there's always going to be different perspectives on their actions, right?
Absolutely. And to understand these complexities, we need to look at a really fascinating figure in Mandinka tradition, Fajigi.
Okay, who's Fajigi?
So Fajigi means father of hope. And he kind of embodies this blend of Islamic and traditional Mandinka beliefs. Like Musa, he's also said to have journeyed to Mecca, but his mission was different. He was on a quest to retrieve these sacred objects called boli.
Boli, what are those?
They're super important in Mandinka spirituality, objects with deep, deep religious meaning. Think sacred relics in other cultures. So Fajigi's pilgrimage becomes this blend of the familiar journey with this uniquely Mandinka purpose.
So it's like Musa's pilgrimage, but viewed through this totally different lens, colored by local beliefs.
You got it. And it gets even wilder. Sometimes Fajiji is all mixed up with another figure from Mandinka lore, a guy named Fakoli, who was Sunjata's most trusted general. It's almost as if the lines between these historical figures and mythical archetypes, they get blurred. It creates this whole tapestry of storytelling.
It just goes to show you that history isn't always neat and tidy, right? It's messy, contradictory, and often it's those very contradictions that are the most interesting.
Could not agree more. It's about embracing those gray areas, knowing that we'll never have the complete picture, and accepting that the past, well, it's always open to interpretation.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the impact of Musa's wealth, but what about those stories of him single-handedly causing economies to crash? Exaggerations, total myth.
There's definitely some truth in there, but like any good story, it's not that simple. We got to remember, the folks who wrote about Musa's wealth, they were often going for awe-inspiring, not, strictly accurate economic analysis.
It's like, this guy had so much gold, it'll blow your mind.
Exactly. But even if we take it all with a grain of salt, no doubt, the Mali Empire under Musa, they were swimming in it. They controlled those crucial trade routes, taxing the flow of gold, salt, copper, was an economic powerhouse.
So the gold Musa brought with him on his pilgrimage, it wasn't just like his personal piggy bank, right? It represented years of wealth built up from this huge trading network.
You got it. It makes you think about how we can get caught up in the legends without seeing the full picture.
It's easy to simplify these historical figures.
Yeah.
So when we talk about Mansa Musa's real legacy, what's the takeaway? Is it the gold, the mosques, the different stories about him? What do you think?
That is the question, isn't it? And I think it's all of that. Mansa Musa's story isn't just about how much stuff he owned. It's about knowledge, cultural impact, and the power of stories themselves. He's a great example of how history is rarely about black and white answers. It's about digging into the complexities, seeing all the different sides.
Right. He's a king, a devout Muslim, a scholar, a symbol of wealth, A&D, someone who faced real struggles. It's those contradictions that make him so interesting, even all these centuries later.
Totally. His life, his reign, it gives us this window into bigger themes. What is wealth, really? How do cultures mix and influence each other? How do stories shape what we think we know about the past?
It reminds me that history isn't just some boring stuff in a textbook. It's about real people, complex societies, and their impact that we're still talking about today.
Exactly. It's about never stopping asking questions, looking at things from different angles, and just embracing how rich and mysterious the past really is.
Love that. So if you finish this and think, I got to Google Mansa Musa or richest man ever.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do it. But don't stop there. Go further. Ask yourself, what is it about this story, about this guy that grabs you? What does that tell you about how you think about wealth, about power, about what we leave behind?
Now you're talking. Engaging with history, it's not just about memorizing facts. It's about using them to understand ourselves and the world we're living in right now.
Yeah, I could have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder all things Mansa Musa. Until next time, keep exploring, keep those questions coming, and keep diving deep into the mysteries of the past.